You have a session titled "Picking the Right Metrics." What are the most common mistakes people make when they're picking those metrics?
So I like to say that metrics should be simple, reproducible, credible, and actionable. And by that I mean simple means that the metric is easily relatable. I can describe to you in a few words or a couple of sentences what it is, and you as a practitioner should know what that means. Obviously that'll be different for different groups, different projects, and so on. So the line of what's simple and what's not will be different. Credible means that you should be able to be convinced that the description of the metric matches what's actually being measured. So the example I like to give in the talk is that the NFL quarterback score is not very credible because it's difficult to see how that metric actually measures something that's akin to a quarterback rating. A lot of the choices are arbitrary to include different factors and so on. Actionable means that the metric changes your behavior or causes you to do something different depending on what it is. If it's not actionable, then the question might arise of why you're measuring it in the first place. And then reproducible means that given the input data, you should be able to reproduce the value of the metric. And with those four factors, I think that's the right way to find the right metric. I think if you have those four things, that should be a convincing argument that you have a good metric.
Should a metric be able to address both technical and business aspects?
I think if it's trying to do too much, that's a bad thing. I think it's fine to have metrics that a set of metrics for technical reasons and a set of metrics for business reasons. I don't think you should try for some kind of omni-metric that has all possible values and everything like that.
The all-seeing metric.
Much. Yeah, exactly.
Are there any universal metrics, things that everybody should track?
I don't think so. I think that there's different metrics for different purposes, and I think that there isn't such a thing as, again, one metric that knows everything about your business or condenses it into one thing. There are certain summaries that might be useful of different, there might be statistical approaches to data that are useful. Like, for example, the mean of a data set is a statistic that's very useful in many different situations, but I don't think anybody would say that that's something everybody should be using. I think they're taking a more contextual approach to it. So I don't think that there is a metric that everyone should be using, but I do think that everyone should be considering what metrics they should be using.
So it's all within the organization,
or team, or project, right?
Do metrics have a life cycle?
I think that there is always, as with anything else, a periodic reevaluation that should take place. I don't think that there's an expiration date on a metric, but I do think that it always behooves you to be asking the question of whether it's continuing to add value or not.
How do you know when it's time to let it go?
Sure. So I think that that's if you find yourself, for example, no longer seeing all four of those properties I talked about before, if it's no longer actionable, if you don't take any action when that metric changes, it's probably time to retire it.
Last question for you. What people or projects are you following these days?
Oh man, there's so many great things happening in the technology space. One of the areas I think is really important, but I'm happy to see some progress being made on, is gender diversity and just broader diversity in the tech space. I think Shanley Kane and Lauren Voswinkle and Ash Dryden, there's a whole cohort of folks that are really working to try to help us all do a better job and try to make the tech industry specifically more aware of the challenges we face. So I'm really interested to see I'm always following what they're up to, and I'm really interested in that.
Thank you for being with us.
Thanks very much.